A black man stands still, hands raised, a badge in one, calm voice in the other. Across from him, a gun drawn, a uniform, a badge, a laugh. He says he's a federal agent. The officer doesn't flinch. This is not a movie. This is not a mistake. This is America, where sometimes even a badge isn't enough. On a quiet street, in a city built on rules and reputation, an encounter took place that challenged both. A black man, calm, professional, and armed with federal credentials, was stopped by a police officer. Moments later, a weapon was aimed at him. The man identified himself. "I'm Secret Service." The officer laughed. What followed was not a mistake in judgment, but a window into a much deeper crisis. One where identity, authority, and race collide violently beneath the surface of America's law enforcement culture. In this documentary, we break down the real story. We explore the man behind the badge, the system behind the gun, and the tension that doesn't go away, even when you're supposed to be one of the good guys. This is the story of what happened when the police pulled a gun on the Secret Service. The man's name remains withheld in some reports, and yet his identity was never in question. He was a confirmed agent of the United States Secret Service, a federal law enforcement body tasked with protecting the nation's highest officials and guarding against financial crimes. He had gone through extensive vetting, training, background checks, psychological assessments. He wasn't just wearing the badge, he earned it. That day he wasn't undercover, he wasn't running, he wasn't even suspicious. He was simply black. And for some officers, that was apparently enough. The United States Secret Service, one of the most elite federal agencies in the country, established in 1865, it was originally formed to combat counterfeiting. Today, it's best known for protecting the president, vice president, and other national leaders. But beyond protection, agents investigate major financial crimes, including cyber fraud, bank fraud, and threats against national security. To become a Secret Service agent is to clear some of the strictest background checks and physical evaluations in federal law enforcement. They don't just hand out those badges, which is what makes this incident even more staggering. A man with this level of authority and clearance treated like a suspect without cause. It began like so many others. A traffic stop. An officer approaches a parked vehicle. Inside, a black man, calm, cooperative. The officer asks questions. The man responds clearly, professionally. But then, something shifts. The officer asks for ID. The man hands over his badge. It reads, United States Secret Service. But instead of recognition or respect, comes skepticism. And then the weapon is drawn. Step out of the vehicle. The man raises his hands, calm. He says again, "I'm Secret Service." The officer laughs. Backup is called. More officers arrive. Still, the man does not resist. He stands still. He presents his credentials again. One officer looks, hesitates, and lowers his weapon. The others follow. Finally, someone makes a call. The badge is confirmed. The man is who he said he was, all along. But the damage is already done. When a police officer sees a badge, protocol should follow. Confirmation, de-escalation, communication. But when that badge is held by a black man, the rules, too often, seem to change. The officer in this case didn't ask questions. He didn't verify. He didn't even hesitate. Instead, he drew his gun. Not because of what the man did, but because of what he looked like. This is not an isolated moment. It's a manifestation of what experts call implicit bias, subconscious beliefs and fears that influence behavior. But in policing, those fears become weapons. And those weapons are pointed at people like him, even if they carry a badge of their own. Too often. This was not the first time a black man with credentials was treated like a criminal. In 2009, Harvard professor Henry Louis Gates Jr. was arrested outside his own home after trying to unlock his own front door. In 2016, Philando Castile informed an officer he had a legal firearm. Seconds later, he was shot and killed in front of his girlfriend and a child. In 2020, Christian Cooper, a black birdwatcher in Central Park, was threatened by a white woman calling 911, falsely claiming he was attacking her. The pattern is chilling. Black men, calm, composed, legal, still met with suspicion, still met with violence. And every time the nation asks, what if he had been white? The video spread fast. Millions of views, thousands of comments, anger, shock, but also exhaustion. Some police departments issued statements. Others were silent. The officer involved, to this day, has not faced public disciplinary action. The Secret Service confirmed the identity of their agent. But even their statement was clinical. No outrage, no direct call for justice. For many, it was yet another example of how institutions close ranks, protecting themselves instead of protecting the truth. At the heart of this story lies a fundamental question. Who gets believed? Who gets protected? A badge should speak for itself. But in America, a black man's truth is too often questioned, even when backed by federal authority. This is not just about fear. It's about power. Who holds it? Who yields it? And who it's used against. Racism in policing isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet assumption. Sometimes it's a laugh. He did everything right. He stayed calm. He followed orders. He carried the highest form of ID law enforcement can issue. And still, a gun was drawn. This story is not just about one man. It's about a country where your identity, your safety, your life can be determined not by your actions, but by your appearance. So we ask again, if a black Secret Service agent isn't safe, who is?